It's Victory Monday. The NC State men's basketball team is going to the Sweet 16, and it hasn't gotten any less sweet.
You are Locked On Wolfpack, your daily podcast on the NC State Wolfpack, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Wolfpack Nation? It's time to get locked in with Locked On. Thanks for making Locked On Wolfpack your first listen each and every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. That's why LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Terms and conditions apply. Happy Victory Monday to all. As always, I'm Grayson Boone, joined by former Wolfpack defensive tackle Kenton Gibbs. NC State men's basketball is going to the Sweet 16. NC State women's basketball plays a round of 32 matchup against Tennessee tonight. We'll dive into that. NC State gymnastics won the ACC tournament. Congratulations to them. They are both ACC regular season champs and ACC tournament champs. Absolute domination. The biggest congratulations to NC State gymnastics. And NC State baseball went 3-1 with 3 ranked wins this past week. What a week for NC State. Of course, capitalized by the NC State men's team getting into the Sweet 16 for the first time since 2015. We now know their opponent. They will play Marquette, the 2 seed in the South region. This is Marquette's first trip to the Sweet 16 in 10 years. And you might be wondering, what is the last time that these two schools met in the NCAA tournament? That's right. 1974, when NC State defeated Marquette on their way to the first national title in school history. How about that, Kenton? How's your Monday going?
In the words of Jesus and Miro, a grouping that we would much rather see together than apart, the brand is strong, okay? The brand, the NC State brand is strong. That Wolf is strong. Tuffy is strong. The pack, for lack of a better word, is strong, all pun intended there. The Wolfpack run, somebody started off tweeting they only have 11 games to go until they're national champions at the start of the ACC tournament. And now that number has drastically reduced to 4. This is what a time to be alive. What a time to be a member of Wolfpack Nation.
Yeah, chew on that for a second. NC State men's basketball is just 4 wins away from a national title. The most insane turnaround, the most insane run we could have possibly imagined. And it's even crazier because none of us saw it coming. Now we know that they do play Marquette this coming Friday in Dallas for the Sweet 16. This is a tough matchup for NC State. Marquette is a basketball team that does a lot of things at a very high level. They shoot at a high clip. They can defend at a high clip. They generate a lot of turnovers. Marquette has gotten so good because they are disciplined. They play a very disciplined brand of basketball, and that has kind of been what is known under Shaka Smart. In addition to energy, they're going to be energetic. They will try and beat you to every loose ball. They want to beat you up and down the floor all night. So This will be a test of NC State's will, which we have seen is not very easily broken over the course of this run.
Yeah, I believe that it was the villain in the Marvel movies Thanos who said the greatest task required the strongest will. And this is a moment where, this isn't just going to be about who's the most skilled, because we know how good NC State is. We know how good Marquette is, but this NC State run has been largely about, having that willpower, having that just downright, we're not going to give up. That's where we are. That's what this team has been. That's what they've shown us. And that's what we're looking at here. And by the way, Josh Brolin, don't get mad at me. I know I misquoted Thanos a little bit there, but that was the gist of it. So, the reality of this game is going to be simple, right? I'm going to be here to take your best punch and punch back. I'm going to be here, that even if my best punch doesn't drop you, I'm going to keep throwing blows and just chopping away at the wood until the tree falls.
Yeah, this is the type of game where it will be imperative that NC State keeps chipping away. They keep throwing punches. They cannot afford to get hit and stagger a bit, because that's when Marquette really pounces on you. Their two guards in Cameron Jones and Tyler Kolick, they're hard to defend because they are little balls of energy and they do not ever stop moving around. They can create basically any shot that they want. They're very skilled at creating for others. They distribute the ball at a high level. They can do everything. And that is why Marquette is a 2 seed. That is why Marquette is a top 10 team in the country. But for NC State, the thing that we keep falling back to over the course of this run, there is no one that we feel like we cannot play with right now. This is a tough matchup, but it's a matchup they can absolutely rise to the occasion for.
Either way you cut it, either way you slice it, this game is going to be a big-time game. And, you know, I talked a lot about how there was the way in which the football team turned around last season. It gave the energy and momentum going into the season forward. The way this team turned around in the ACC tournament gave the momentum, gave for the rise of everybody truly buying into their role and playing their best basketball when it matters most in March. And so, you know, I'm looking to this weekend's games with, you know, Marquette and going forward from there with a very, very simple message for this team. Not everybody can be the star. Continue to star in your role. That's just the reality. I don't think that anybody should be, you know, looking forward to, and I don't think anybody is. Let me not say I don't think anybody should be. I don't think anybody is looking forward to, I need to get 30 points this game or else we're going to lose. To see DJ Horn be okay with taking a back seat to MOC during last game. To see Casey Morcell say, you know what, I'm not going to do a ton offensively. My job is to chase Goki around through all these screens. My job is to stay attached to the hip. To see our bigs say, you know what, our job isn't just to grab rebounds. It's also to help get some jams off those screens of Goki, make sure he is hard on them, but also to keep up with Townsend, who phenomenal player. I told everybody I thought that he should have been the Horizon League Player of the Year and all that good stuff, but he's a phenomenal player. And so, you know, you sit here and see a team that, again, Jaden Taylor no longer deciding to be, I'm a shot creator, I'm going to put the ball on the floor. He's accepted. I'm a knockdown shooter. I'm a defensive specialist. And that's what I'll do. And so, you know, these guys, again, everybody's starring in their role. And when you play like that, we've already beaten a 1 seed on our way here. We've already beaten Duke as what, a 4 seed? That's currently whooping the wheels off the James Madison Dukes at the time of this recording. As my good friend Grayson once said, we didn't come this far just to come this far. Why stop here? Yes, it's sweet to be in the 16, but let's be elite and get to the 8.
The depth of this team is the thing that we always knew should be the main feature. It took all season, but now it is here. And the depth is making a difference in every single one of these games of this run. It's somebody different every single night. Somebody can step up if DJ Horn is struggling. Somebody can step up if the bigs get in foul trouble. The Jaden Taylor to come in when the bigs were in foul trouble in that Oakland game and provide defense and a dagger 3 in that overtime period, huge. Cannot be overstated. So this team has to rely on the depth. They have to relish in what got them to this position. Keep this thing going, and you have a shot against legitimately anyone. Coming up next, we're going to talk about the women's matchup against Tennessee this evening after a quick word from our sponsors. This week's March Madness bracket highlight is brought to you by our friends at Nissan. Each week, we're picking one team that stands out, a team that has pushed it further than the rest. Just like any of the all-new 2024 Nissan SUVs, these guys are able to take it to the next level. The Arizona Wildcats can only be described as an Armada. This 2 seed is as hardcore as it gets, so it's no surprise they have dominated their way for a trip to the Sweet 16. Take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure. Shop NissanUSA.com. Our second sponsor of the day is FanDuel. Say goodbye to busted brackets because FanDuel lets you bet on every single game of the tournament. Whether you're betting big on a big upset or a 1 seed, it's time to go dancing on America's #1 sportsbook. Right now, new customers can get $200 in bonus bets if your first bet of $5 or more wins. That's $200 to use on point spreads, money lines, and you can even pick who's going to win it all. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and bet on college hoops until they cut down the nets. The Locked On College Basketball Bracket Breakdown Show is now available on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast. Our experts Andy Patton and Isaac Shade will break down their brackets and discuss everything that you need to know in watching the rest of this NCAA tournament. Find Locked On Bracket Breakdown now on the Locked On College Basketball Podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. Jumping over to the women's side of March Madness now, our women's team earned a first-round victory over Chattanooga in Reynolds in the opening round of the women's NCAA tournament. They won by a score of 64-45, a relatively comfortable victory to open the tournament. But now they have to play Tennessee in the second round, still in Reynolds. So this is certainly a large benefit that they are hosting these two games of this region here. Tennessee is an interesting matchup. Now, Tennessee, if you did not know this, they were literally about a second and a half from beating South Carolina in the women's SEC tournament if they had just been paying attention for that last second and a half. They had South Carolina beat. They had them beat. And they fell asleep at the wheel for the last second and a half. South Carolina banks in a 3 at the buzzer, and there it went. I say all that to say this. Tennessee can play with anyone. They can play with South Carolina. They can absolutely play with NC State. NC State needs to come out firing on all cylinders in this game. This is a game where if you do mess around, you will find out, and it will be the end of your season. If you remember the name Jewel Spear, she was a dynamic scorer at Wake Forest last year. She's on Tennessee. This is a girl that is very familiar with NC State. She knows how to beat NC State. She did it last year. NC State has to show up for this one.
Yeah, I 1,000% agree. But here's the thing about it. That is a very losable game, but it's also a very winnable one. Tennessee is 500 on the road.
They are.
In true road games, they are 5-5 on the year. Like I said to start the show off, there is not a single team all year that has beaten NC State in Reynolds besides the ACC team that had the player of the year. I'm telling you right now, this team, something just feels different. I know that all the men's team in their run has kind of eaten up a lot of our attention span. Don't ignore the women in this one. I'm telling you right now, I talked about how favorable their bracket was to start off their tournament. You can go back and watch the tape. Me and Grayson both talked about, we don't know what happened or how the basketball guys shook this thing out, but we saw some times in the past, where thanks to nobody at all, not specifically an athletic director from a school that's also in the Triangle, who may have had a vested interest in putting us in the same bracket as Connecticut when we were there. That's neither here nor there. The reality is very simple. This is a very winnable game, and this is a game that this team, again, Grayson is right. They must come out with the right temperament. They must come out, as Wes Moore said, this is a butt game. This is a get your butt back. This is a get your butt on somebody and rebound. This is a get your butt to every loose ball. This is a butt game. But you know what? I very much so believe after all the butts that we say in this one, what we won't be saying is, but this team still had a great season. It's unfortunate that they went down this way. I think that the Wolfpack are going to advance out of Raleigh and keep on rolling in March to their Sweet 16 as well.
Yeah, NC State is favored by 5.5 in this game, and we all know they have more than enough talent to play like that. They had the most ranked wins of anyone in the entire country, and there's no reason why they shouldn't display that on Monday. This is a very simple thought. I'm not getting incredibly deep on this. If NC State plays their brand of basketball, that means limiting turnovers, forcing turnovers on the other end, team rebounding, being very smart in their shot selection and sharing the ball around, things should take care of themselves. Now, you shouldn't really ever say should when you're talking March Madness. We know absolutely anything can happen, but I have no doubt that Westmore will have the girls ready. I have no doubt that the Old Barn will be a tough environment for Tennessee to come in and try and earn a win in. But this is going to be a fun matchup. I'm expecting a very close basketball game. I think it'll come down to the wire, but I think NC State has all the firepower they need to walk away with the victory here.
Yeah, and one thing, the most interesting thing about this team is in all of their losses, there have been moments where they just went kind of haywire. Like you just kind of can't explain what happened or how they came up short, or in one particular loss, somebody got away with doing one of the best pass sets I've seen in Blacksburg in quite some time. But with that being said, this NC State team truly is complete enough to win a national championship. People just aren't talking about it. Offensively and defensively, this team is experienced and balanced enough to make it happen. In terms of your front court with scoring, you have River Baldwin and Mimi Collins. Mimi Collins is one of the best stretch fours in the nation. I think that the way her three ball has taken a step forward adds a definite dimension to this offense, because you cannot sag off of her to deny Isaiah James or Sanaya Rivers those driving lanes. You cannot sag off of them to deny Zoe Brooks when she wants to get in the paint. So now you're left with a dilemma. You have River Baldwin, who, for all we talk about DJ Burns and a big body moving down there, again, don't ignore River. Don't ignore she's been a big body that's been moving and grooving all year. And then you talk about the wing scoring. Of course, you've got Sanaya Rivers, who, if they were ever to decide to lower the rims in women's basketball, that young woman would be dunking on everybody. She would be hanging off the rim and doing all types of things in the air that we have not seen out of the women's game so far. But in all seriousness, she's amazing at attacking the rim, and she plays some really, really good defense. Backcourt-wise, of course, you talk about Lucky Lefty, right? Of course, Isaiah James is the player that everybody's looking out for and everybody's watching. And I want to say she's the X factor, because remember in the past when it was like, oh man, if Alyssa Kunane is struggling, do we have a player we can roll the ball out to and get a bucket?
Right.
Yes. We have Isaiah James. Well, if Isaiah James is struggling, do we have another player that we can dump it off to in the post and get a bucket? Yes. You have River Baldwin. And then defensively, I'll tell you what, if you don't know about Westmore and his defense yet, I would venture to say he's almost at the level of a Coach Gibson of women's college basketball, because when you give him 5 players to put out there to play some defense, they're going to get in the stands, they're going to rebound in possessions, and they're going to hold teams to some pretty low scores. You don't have any traffic cones defensively as well. And coming off the bench, we have some young pups that are getting into it as well in terms of Zoe Brooks, who can do a little bit of everything on both sides of the ball. You got a Lexi Steele who can shoot the blood out that ball. When she gets hot, when she gets rolling, she don't got the hairline of Goki, but she's got that shooting stroke. She can make she can make it rain out there. So, you're sitting here looking at a moment where, again, you have the players, you have the depth, you have the scoring, you have the defense, you have the depth and the bench pieces. They just got to string it together. And I'll tell you, it's much more believable and realistic for them to string it together for these games as well. So believe in them like we do in the men's team.
Yeah, and you basically covered everything you would need to talk about there. But my focus here, it goes to that guard play. It goes to Sanaya Rivers, and it goes to Isaiah James. We desperately need those two to take the reins and take us home. They have got to lead us every step of the way in this ball game. And you know that they can. You know, if they stay under control, orchestrate the offense in the way that they're very capable of doing so, NC State can take this one. But in the events we've seen them at times this year, they do get a little bit out of control, or they do try and play too fast or do too much. That will get you in trouble against Tennessee. But I'm expecting to come out focused, fiery, and ready to go. This should be a fun matchup, and I can't wait to see what NC State can do to move to the women's side of the Sweet 16 as well.
My mother always said, you never want to be the man with no expectations. And I said, what do you mean? And she said, if people don't expect things out of you, that means that for too long you have let them down.
Right.
Be the person that people look at and they're disappointed when you do it wrong, because that means that you've done it right consistently. The women's team, they are those women. They have proven themselves to be those women that they do it right so much it becomes mundane. But we are witnessing something special that I believe will continue rolling after this game against Tennessee.
Coming up next, we're going to touch on NC State baseball and the successful week they had when they really needed one, after a quick word from our sponsors. Our third sponsor of the day is LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are just right for that role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has the tools to help find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. They have a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals, which makes it the best place to interview and hire. They give you access to professionals that you simply cannot find anywhere else. LinkedIn does all of this while making the process quicker and intuitive. Hiring is easier when you have this many quality candidates to choose from. So easy, in fact, that 86% of small businesses get a qualified candidate within just 24 hours. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats that they simply might not have the time or resources to hire effectively. So LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make this process easier. They've even just launched a feature that helps you write job descriptions, streamlining this process. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Rounding out our Monday episode now, talking about NC State baseball. What a week for the Pac-9. Of course, we talked about their big win over Coastal in the midweek on Tuesday, and they had the tough task of the top team in the conference in Duke coming to Raleigh over the weekend. Well, Friday night, you face Duke's ace, that's Jonathan Santucci. He's been one of the best pitchers in the ACC so far this season, and NC State beat him. They got the victory 4-3. It was an excellent showing of pitching. Sam Highfill for the Wolfpack looked like 2021 Sam Highfill, and that kind of performance, if you can get that consistently, that goes a very long way for this team here in 2024. The offense did enough to beat Santucci. You beat Duke. Excellent start to the series, okay? You fast forward to Saturday. Duke had claimed a lead. I believe it was an 8-2 or 8-3 lead late in that game. I think it was 8-2 in the eighth.
Yeah.
He made it 8-3. It was 8-3 going into the ninth. Enter Garrett Pennington. He hits 2 home runs over what has been widely considered one of the top closers in the country in Charlie Bielenson. Pennington takes him deep twice, shrinks the lead to 8-7, and then you have Eli Serrano. A walk-off bomb to right field. NC State has now suddenly stolen the series from Duke. I had tweeted after that win, you want to talk about building momentum, and especially after the rough week they had the week prior. You lose to UNCG in embarrassing fashion, and then you get swept down in Georgia Tech. The turnaround this week to go 3-1 with 3 ranked wins is excellent. Now, we won't harp too much on the Sunday loss. It was a run rule loss, 13-2. At that point, it kind of is what it is. You got what you came for, and that's the series win. Big time turnaround for the Pac-9 this past week.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we talked about in the beginning here. This was a pitching display last week that was atrocious, abysmal, downright nasty, stunk, as they would say on the Grinch. And yet you turn that around because Grayson and I said, you cannot expect your offense to give you double-digit runs every game.
Right.
Did we see shades of that on Sunday? Absolutely. Are we still having some concerns about Rom-Com Dom at the moment? Absolutely. Yeah. They have not been calm. But much like we said about the basketball team all year, there is still time for him to get it together and for him to correct those struggles. But more importantly, it's not just about him. It's about the team. It's about how is the team doing it? How is the team gelling together? How is the team meshing together? You know what? For us to just take it down, for us to just hit our spots, for us to just change tempo at the right times on the mound, that's a momentous win over last week in those first 2 games. And so, of course, we want to get that Sunday situation sorted out, but we're not going to hang our hats on that with against the Duke team that by most of the outlets that do the ranking for college baseball are inside the top 12 to 13. That's out all 3.
Right.
So that is a club that they play some good ball over there in Durham. And for us to come up with this series win, big time win. And whether you want to realize it or not, yes, getting swept in Atlanta was embarrassing, but we are 2-1 in conference series right now in one of the better baseball conferences in the land.
Your point there about Dom Fritton, that is something I wanted to talk about. I think that is maybe my biggest concern coming out of this series. Now, Dom Fritton, who was our best pitcher last season, had very high expectations coming into this season. We're coming to the end of March here, and he has not looked like himself at all. He has consistently found himself in trouble. He's struggling, to put it bluntly. Yeah. Dom Fritton is struggling right now, and there is still plenty of time for him to figure it out, but it's got to come sooner than later because this ACC schedule, once April rolls around, it turns into a bit of a gauntlet for the Wolfpack. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a change in the weekend rotation. You might see Ryan Marone return to Sunday starts, and maybe Dom Fritton moves back into the bullpen to, try and work on some mechanics and fundamentals until he starts to look like himself again. But it is something that really needs to get figured out here for NC State to find more consistency in these series moving forward. But yes, nonetheless, this is a big-time series win. Duke had been killing folks up until this point. And so for NC State to reach up and grab them and take this series win, that's something you build momentum on and start to really get things rolling here for the Pac-9. So great week, 3 ranked wins. Looking forward to some get back against UNCG this week in the midweek. We got to take the trip over to Greensboro. I think we might owe them a little something this time around. And then we see Notre Dame coming to Raleigh next weekend. That'll do it for us here on Monday. As always, thank y'all so much for joining us. Still celebrating this trip to the Sweet 16. It does not feel real yet at all. If you're still floating, it's extremely normal. Keep on floating. We're going to float all week, all the way to Friday, because this is one hell of a run right now. But be sure to hit that like button, drop your comments in the comment box. Tell us anything and everything that you feel about this run to the Sweet 16. Tell us the women's chances against Tennessee tonight in the Old Barn, and tell us what you think about Pac-9 flipping the script and taking 3 ranked wins from their opponents last week. And of course, if you have not already, mash that subscribe button, tell a friend to do the same, and we will see you all on Tuesday. Until then, go Pack.
Go Pack.